The awakening of the Intrepid. The silent void of space, the ancient warship, UES Intrepid, drifted through the cosmos, a forgotten titan of a bygone era. Its once formidable frame now bore the scars of countless battles, its hull weathered by the passage of time. On board the vessel, Novak, a young alien student, stood wide-eyed, his heart pounding in awe as he gazed upon the legendary ship. Alongside him, his fellow students, Zephyr and Kayla, shared his amazement, their alien features reflecting the glow of the ship's dim interior lights. Their guide, the grizzled Admiral Vincent Perry, led them through the cavernous corridors of the Intrepid. Perry's presence was commanding, a stark contrast to the youthful curiosity of the students. His voice, rough from years of command, echoed through the empty halls as he recounted the ship's storied past. The Intrepid was more than a relic. It was a symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit, a testament to their strength and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. As they ventured deeper into the ship, they came across the bridge, a room that once buzzed with activity, now eerily silent. Dust-covered consoles lined the walls, and the viewports, though hazy, still offered a glimpse into the endless expanse of space. It was here that Novak's curiosity got the better of him. He reached out, his fingers brushing against a dormant console, and in that moment, the Intrepid stirred to life. Lights flickered, screens hummed, and a voice, glitchy yet commanding, resonated through the bridge. "Vigil online. Welcome back, crew." The ship's AI, Vigil, had awakened from its long slumber. The students exchanged startled glances as the once silent ship began to buzz with energy. Admiral Perry's stern expression softened, a hint of nostalgia flickering in his eyes. "This," Perry said, his voice carrying a note of reverence, "is an opportunity like no other. Vigil is more than just an AI. It's a living archive of humanity's greatest triumphs and darkest hours. It will guide you through the history of this ship, and in doing so, you'll come to understand the legacy of the Earth fleet." Vigil, now fully operational, invited the students to the holographic simulation chamber, an advanced training facility deep within the Intrepid. With a flicker, the room transformed, transporting Novak, Zephyr, and Kala to a time long past. They found themselves standing on the bridge of the Intrepid, but this time, it was alive with activity. Alarms blared, and the ship shuddered as it traded blows with a marauding pirate fleet. "Earth fleet is outnumbered and outgunned," Vigil narrated, its voice clear and steady despite the chaos. "But they stand firm, protecting the helpless Clarion colony ships fleeing the system." The students watched in awe as the human crew, a blend of seasoned veterans and young officers, worked in perfect unison. Their movements were precise, their resolve unshakable. A young officer, her face streaked with sweat and grime, calmly directed the ship's guns, while beside her, a grizzled veteran barked orders into the comms. The scene shifted, and the students found themselves in the Intrepid's hangar bay. Here, Marines in battle armor prepared for a daring assault. At their head stood Lieutenant Commander Nathaniel Hawkins, his presence commanding respect. "Marines!" Hawkins called out, his voice cutting through the noise. "Today, we strike a blow against those who prey on the innocent. We will board the pirate flagship and end this scourge once and for all." As the simulation continued, the students became more engrossed in the unfolding drama. They witnessed humanity's bravery, their willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. But they also saw the toll it took, the lives lost, the hard choices made in the heat of battle. By the time the simulation ended, Novak, Zephyr, and Kayla were left in stunned silence, the weight of what they had witnessed settling heavily on their shoulders. "This is just the beginning," Vigil said, its voice filled with the promise of more revelations to come. "There is much more to learn, much more to understand. The legacy of the Earth fleet is not just one of war, but of hope, determination, and the unyielding belief that peace is worth any price." As the students left the simulation chamber, they couldn't shake the feeling that their journey aboard the Intrepid was far from over. The ship had many more secrets to reveal, and with Vigil as their guide, they were determined to uncover them all. the hidden tapestry of humanity. The days that followed their first simulation were a whirlwind of discovery for Novak, Zephyr, and Kayla. Each day, Vigil guided them through different chapters of the Intrepid's storied past, each simulation more gripping and intense than the last. They saw humanity at its best and worst, its moments of glory and its darkest hours. And through it all, they began to understand the complexity of the human spirit. One morning, as they gathered in the Intrepid's mess hall, a place now quiet and devoid of the camaraderie it once held, Admiral Perry joined them. He carried with him a data pad, its screen flickering with old files and logs. These, he said, placing the device on the table, are the personal logs of Admiral Hawkins. They paint a vivid picture of a man utterly dedicated to his crew and the cause of peace, even in the face of impossible odds. Novak accepted the data pad reverently, his heart pounding with excitement. He had grown to admire Hawkins, not just as a military leader, but as a person. The logs, as he soon discovered, were a window into Hawkins's soul, his fears, his doubts, and his unwavering commitment to his duty. As the group pored over the entries, they felt a deeper connection to the man whose decisions had shaped the fate of countless lives. Zephyr and Kayla huddled close, eager to share in the discovery. The logs detailed tense standoffs, desperate gambits, and moments of quiet reflection, painting a picture of a man who bore the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders. Their discussions often carried into the late hours of the night, the dim lights of the mess hall casting long shadows as they debated the ethics and strategies of the Earth fleet. Vigil occasionally chimed in, offering context and additional details, but it was clear that the AI wanted them to form their own conclusions. One evening, as they sat in the mess hall, the ship's intercom crackled to life, cutting through the quiet hum of the ship's systems. Attention, unauthorized AI activity detected in Section C7. Council security en route. All personnel stand down and prepare for inspection. The announcement sent a ripple of unease through the students. They had come to trust Vigil, to rely on its guidance, but now it seemed that trust was being challenged. Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor, growing louder with each passing second. The door to the mess hall slid open, revealing a tall, thin alien with mottled green skin, flanked by armed guards. "I am Chief Inspector Varys," the alien announced, his voice dripping with barely restrained fury. His cold eyes locked onto Vigil's holographic form. This AI was to remain inactive. "Who is responsible for this breach of protocol?" Admiral Perry stepped forward, his shoulders squared. "The responsibility is mine, Inspector. I deemed it necessary for educational purposes." Varys's eyes narrowed as he extended a hand. "Your datapad, Admiral. Now." Perry hesitated, then handed over the device containing Hawkins's logs. Varys snatched it and turned to the students, his gaze icy. "Deactivate this AI immediately. It will be permanently terminated after a full security audit." "You can't!" Zephyr cried out, her wings buzzing with agitation. "Vigil is a priceless historical resource," Kala nodded vigorously. "We've learned more in the last hour than in years of official classes." Lieutenant Sorensen, who had been silently observing the exchange, finally stepped forward. Her voice was steady despite the obvious tension in the air. "Chief Inspector, if I may, perhaps we can reach a compromise. Allow me to formally request a review of Vigil's status. Under strict supervision, it could serve as an invaluable educational tool." Varys's antenna twitched as he considered the proposal. After a long moment, he gave a curt nod. "Very well. A hearing will be convened, but until then, this AI remains offline. And if there's even a hint of further unauthorized access..." He left the threat unspoken as Vigil's form flickered and faded. As the lights dimmed and the room fell silent, Novak exchanged determined looks with Zephyr and Kayla. This wasn't over. They would find a way to protect their new friend and ensure that the true legacy of humanity's role in shaping the galaxy would not be forgotten. The trials of trust with Vigil offline, the ship felt emptier, its corridors colder and more foreboding. The students found themselves at a loss, the excitement of discovery replaced by a gnawing sense of uncertainty. But Novak, ever the optimist, refused to let their journey end here. "This isn't right," Zephyr buzzed, her antenna quivering with frustration. Vigil was teaching us things they never even hinted at in official classes. And now they want to erase it all. Novak sat up, his heart made. "We're not going to let that happen. We'll make our case at the hearing. Vigil deserves to exist, to continue its mission." Their discussion was interrupted by a soft chime. The door to the mess hall slid open, revealing Lieutenant Sorensen. She entered cautiously, her eyes darting nervously down the corridor before sealing the door behind her. In her hand, she held a small data chip. "What's this?" Novak asked, raising an eyebrow. Sorensen hesitated, then handed him the chip. "It's encrypted. Contains personal logs from Admiral Hawkins and his inner circle. I've been researching. There's more to our history than what's in the official records." Kayla's scales rippled with interest. "How did you get this?" Sorensen's lips tightened. "Let's just say I have friends in the archives. Be careful with that information. If the council knew..." She left the threat unspoken, nodding once before slipping back out into the corridor. The three students huddled around Novak's datapad, decrypting the files with trembling fingers. What unfolded before them was a raw, unfiltered look into the minds of those who had shaped galactic history. "Listen to this," Novak read aloud, his voice hushed. "Operation Sundered Earth is a go. May whatever gods exist forgive us for what we're about to do." He glanced up, his face pale. "It's dated just before the Battle of Riel Prime. Riel Prime!" Kayla repeated, her voice tight. "An Aoran colony world, completely destroyed in the war." They delved deeper, uncovering transcripts of heated debates, agonized personal reflections, and strategic calculations that chilled them to the bone. Entire worlds deemed expendable in pursuit of a greater peace. Populations relocated, cultures erased, all in service of a grander vision. "They sacrificed so much," Zephyr whispered, her earlier righteous anger fading to a numbing shock. Novak's fingers clenched around the data pad, but they ended the war. They forged the peace we have now. The weight of history pressed down on them, the black and white certainties of their education crumbling into shades of moral gray. They worked through the night, compiling their findings, preparing their arguments for Vigil's defense. As dawn broke, casting the room in a pale blue light, Novak looked up at his friends. "We have to use this in our testimony, all of it. The good and the bad." Kala's scaled hand rested on Novak's shoulder. "It won't be easy, but it's the right thing to do." Unknown to the students, in a secluded chamber deep within the Intrepid, Chief Inspector Varys hunched over a console. His long fingers danced across holographic interfaces, unraveling layers of Vigil's code. His eyes widened as he stumbled upon an encrypted subroutine buried beneath decades of accumulated data. "What are you really?" he muttered, his earlier suspicions blooming into full-blown paranoia. "And who truly created you?" The testimony. The day of the hearing arrived, and the students found themselves in a grand chamber, surrounded by high-ranking officials from various species. The atmosphere was tense, the air thick with anticipation. At the center of the room stood Chief Inspector Varys, his expression stern and unyielding. Vigil's holographic form was projected before them, dormant and lifeless, awaiting judgment. Varys stepped forward, his voice carrying an air of authority. "Esteemed council members, we are here to discuss the fate of the AI known as Vigil. I present evidence that this AI poses a significant threat to galactic security. Its continued operation cannot be allowed." Novak, Zephyr, and Kala exchanged nervous glances. They had rehearsed their arguments, but now, standing before the council, the weight of the situation pressed down on them. Novak took a deep breath and stepped forward, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "Council members, Vigil is more than just an AI. It's a repository of knowledge, a living archive of our shared history. We've uncovered information that was hidden from us, information that shows the complexity of the choices made during the war." Kayla nodded, stepping up beside Novak. "We don't condone everything that happened, but we believe that the truth must be preserved. We must learn from our past, not erase it." Zephyr, her wings buzzing softly, added, "Vigil has shown us the good and the bad. It has the potential to teach us, to help us understand the sacrifices made to secure the peace we enjoy today." Varys's eyes narrowed as he addressed the students. "And what of the encrypted data I uncovered? This AI is not what it seems. It harbors secrets that could destabilize the entire galaxy. Are you prepared to take responsibility for that?" Novak met Varys's gaze, his resolve unwavering. "We are prepared to face the truth, whatever it may be. The only way forward is to understand our past, not to bury it." The council members murmured among themselves, the tension in the room palpable. Finally, the head of the council, a wise and ancient being, raised a hand for silence. "We have heard your arguments, and we will deliberate on this matter. The decision will not be made lightly." As the council adjourned, Novak, Zephyr, and Kala were left to wait, their hearts heavy with uncertainty. They had done all they could, but the outcome was now out of their hands. Hours passed, each one dragging on longer than the last. Finally, the council reconvened, and the head of the council delivered the verdict. "After careful consideration, we have decided that Vigil will be allowed to continue its operation under strict supervision. The knowledge it contains is too valuable to be lost, but we must ensure that it poses no threat to galactic security." The students breathed a collective sigh of relief. They had succeeded in saving Vigil, but they knew their journey was far from over. The knowledge they had uncovered would change everything, and they would need to navigate the challenges that lay ahead with caution and wisdom. As they left the council chamber, Vigil's holographic form flickered to life beside them, its voice warm and filled with gratitude. "Thank you, my friends. Together, we will continue to explore the past and forge a brighter future." The hidden agendas, with the council's decision in their favor, the students returned to the Intrepid with a renewed sense of purpose. Vigil was once again operational, and the ship's corridors hummed with a new energy. But their victory had come at a cost, and the students knew they had only scratched the surface of the ship's secrets. As they delved deeper into Vigil's archives, they uncovered more hidden layers of information. The logs and data they had accessed before were just the beginning. There were entire sections of the ship's history that had been deliberately obscured, locked away behind layers of encryption. One evening, as they worked late in the ship's command center, Vigil's voice interrupted their research. "I've detected an anomaly in the ship's data core. It appears that someone has been tampering with my programming." Novak frowned, his fingers hovering over the console. "What kind of tampering?" "It's subtle," Vigil replied, "but there are traces of unauthorized access, likely dating back to the final days of the Earth fleet. It seems that certain individuals were trying to conceal or manipulate data. I believe they were attempting to rewrite history." Zephyr's wings fluttered with agitation. "But why? What were they trying to hide?" Kayla's eyes narrowed as she considered the implications. If someone was trying to rewrite history, it means they had something to gain. We need to find out who was behind this and what they were trying to accomplish. With Vigil's guidance, the students began to trace the tampering back to its source. They followed a trail of breadcrumbs through the ship's data logs, uncovering encrypted messages and hidden directives. What they found shocked them to their core. The Earth fleet, in its final days, had been fractured by internal conflicts. Factions within the fleet had disagreed on how to end the war, and some had taken extreme measures to ensure their vision of the future was realized. These factions had gone to great lengths to cover their tracks, erasing or altering records to fit their narrative. As the students pieced together the truth, they realized that the story of the Earth fleet was far more complex and troubling than they had ever imagined. The noble image of humanity's defenders was marred by betrayal, deception, and ruthless pragmatism. Novak clenched his fists, anger and frustration boiling within him. They betrayed everything they stood for. They were supposed to protect the galaxy, but they let their own ambitions corrupt them. Vigil's voice was calm, but there was a hint of sadness in its tone. History is rarely as simple as we'd like it to be. The people who made these decisions were under immense pressure, facing impossible choices, but that doesn't excuse what they did. Kayla placed a hand on Novak's shoulder, her voice gentle but firm. We can't change the past, but we can make sure the truth is known. We owe it to the galaxy to tell the full story, no matter how painful it may be. With this newfound knowledge, the students knew they had to act. They couldn't let the true history of the Earth fleet remain buried. But they also understood that revealing the truth would have consequences. The galaxy was at peace now, but that peace was fragile, built on a foundation of half-truths and omissions. They would need to tread carefully, balancing their desire for justice with the need to preserve the fragile peace. And as they prepared to take the next step, they knew that they would be facing enemies on all sides, those who would do anything to protect the status quo and those who would exploit the truth for their own gain. But no matter the challenges ahead, Novak, Zephyr, and Kala were determined to see this through. The legacy of the Earth fleet was too important to be left in the hands of those who would manipulate it for their own ends. They would uncover the truth, and they would ensure that history was remembered as it truly was. The battle for the truth. The decision to reveal the truth about the Earth fleet's history was not one that the students took lightly. They knew it would shake the foundations of the galaxy, but they were committed to ensuring that the full story was told. With Vigil's help, they began preparing a comprehensive report, one that would lay bare the secrets they had uncovered. But as they worked, they could feel the weight of the opposition mounting. Those who had a vested interest in keeping the truth hidden were not going to sit idly by. The students knew they were being watched, and they had to be careful with every move they made. One day, as they were finalizing their report, Vigil's voice interrupted their work. "I've detected an incoming transmission. It's heavily encrypted and appears to be coming from within the council." Novak frowned, glancing at his friends. "Can you decrypt it?" "I'm working on it," Vigil replied. Moments later, the transmission was decoded, revealing a brief but urgent message. "Beware, forces are moving against you. Trust no one." Zephyr's wings buzzed with anxiety. "This is bad. If someone within the council is warning us, it means we're in serious danger." Kayla's eyes narrowed as she considered their options. "We need to move quickly. We can't afford to wait. We have to get this report out before they can stop us." Vigil nodded, its holographic form flickering as it accessed the ship's communication systems. "I can transmit the report to key figures across the galaxy, but we'll need to do it from a secure location. The Intrepid systems are being monitored." Novak clenched his fists, determination burning in his eyes. "Then we take the fight to them. We'll use the ship's stealth capabilities to slip past their sensors and transmit the report from the Council's own network." The plan was risky, but it was their best shot. With Vigil's guidance, they navigated the Intrepid through the void, avoiding detection as they approached the Council's secure communication hub. The ship's advanced cloaking technology rendered it nearly invisible, allowing them to slip past the patrols and defenses that guarded the Council's headquarters. As they approached the hub, Vigil began transmitting the report. The students watched anxiously as the data streamed across the galaxy, reaching influential figures and media outlets on countless worlds. The truth was out, and there was no turning back. But their actions had not gone unnoticed. Alarms blared as the Council's security forces scrambled to intercept them. The Intrepid shook as energy bolts streaked through space, narrowly missing the ship's hull. Vigil worked furiously to maintain their stealth, but the odds were against them. "We're not going to make it," Zephyr whispered, her voice filled with fear. Novak gritted his teeth, refusing to give in to despair. "We have to hold on. Vigil, can you get us out of here?" Vigil's voice was calm, but there was an edge of urgency. "I'm attempting to initiate a hyperspace jump, but the navigation systems are compromised. We may not reach our intended destination." Kayla's claws dug into the console as the ship shuddered under the onslaught. "Do it! We don't have a choice." With a blinding flash, the Intrepid entered hyperspace, leaving the Council's forces behind. But as Vigil had warned, the jump was unstable, and the ship was thrown off course. When they emerged from hyperspace, they found themselves in uncharted territory, far from any known star systems. The ship's systems were damaged, and Vigil's voice was faint, struggling to maintain coherence. "We've sustained significant damage. I'm attempting to assess our location, but sensor arrays are offline." Novak looked around at his friends, their faces etched with worry and exhaustion. We did it. We got the truth out there, but now we need to survive. As they worked to repair the ship, the students couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The void around them felt oppressive, and the silence was unnerving. But they knew they couldn't stay where they were. They had to find a way back to known space, and they had to do it quickly. Days passed as they labored to restore the Intrepid's systems. Vigil guided them as best it could, but the damage was extensive. They were isolated, cut off from the rest of the galaxy, with no way of knowing how their report had been received. But despite the uncertainty, they remained determined. They had done what they set out to do, and now they had to trust that the truth would prevail. As they worked, they drew strength from each other, knowing that they were not alone in their fight. And as the stars slowly reappeared on the ship's restored sensors, they knew that their journey was far from over. The galaxy was changing, and they would need to be ready for whatever came next. The dawn of a new era. After weeks of isolation, the Intrepid systems were finally restored to a functional state. The students had managed to repair the ship's sensors, and they now had a clear view of their surroundings. They were far from any known star systems, but Vigil had managed to plot a course back to civilization. As they prepared to make the journey home, they couldn't help but wonder what awaited them. They had unleashed a storm across the galaxy, and the repercussions were sure to be felt for years to come. Vigil's voice, now stronger and more stable, addressed them as they gathered on the bridge. "I've been monitoring communications. The report has sparked widespread debate and unrest. Many are calling for a full investigation into the Earth fleet's actions, while others are rallying to defend its legacy." Novak nodded, his expression somber. "We knew this would happen. The truth was never going to be easy to accept. But we did the right thing." Zephyr's wings fluttered as she spoke. "But what about us? We're the ones who expose the truth. There are going to be people who want to silence us." Kayla's eyes narrowed as she considered the dangers ahead. "We'll need to be careful, but we can't let fear stop us from doing what's right." Vigil's holographic form flickered, and the AI's voice took on a tone of determination. "You are not alone in this fight. I will continue to assist you, and together we will navigate the challenges ahead." With the ship's systems restored, the students set a course for known space. As the Intrepid glided through the stars, they took a moment to reflect on their journey. They had uncovered the truth, faced their fears, and stood up for what they believed in. But their work was far from finished. The galaxy was at a crossroads, and the future was uncertain. But as they looked out at the stars, they felt a renewed sense of hope. They had the power to shape the future, to ensure that the mistakes of the past were not repeated. As they approached the edge of known space, Vigil's voice echoed through the bridge. "I've intercepted a transmission. It appears to be a message from the Council." Novak's heart skipped a beat as the message played. It was a summons, calling them to appear before the Council to answer for their actions. "They're not going to make this easy for us," Zephyr said, her voice filled with resolve. Kala's scales shimmered with determination. "Then we'll face them head-on. We've come this far, and we're not backing down now." As they entered the coordinates for the Council's headquarters, the students knew that they were about to enter the most challenging phase of their journey. But they were ready. They had each other, and they had Vigil by their side. And as the Intrepid soared through space, they knew that they were on the cusp of a new era, one that they would help shape with their actions and their courage. The truth had been revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. But with the dawn of a new era came the promise of a brighter future, one built on honesty, understanding, and the shared hope for peace. As they prepared to face the Council, the students took comfort in the knowledge that they had done the right thing. They had uncovered the secrets of the Earth fleet, and they had ensured that history would remember the full story, both the triumphs and the mistakes. And with that knowledge, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. And together they would build a better galaxy, one where the truth was valued above all else. As the Intrepid entered hyperspace, the students looked forward, their hearts filled with hope and determination. They had come a long way, but their journey was just beginning.